Hello, guys. So, because of this pandemic going on, can't really go out and do any bushcraft. So, I decided to try to practice some skills like Bowdrill. It's one of those skills that you gotta practice because if you don't, you can forget it or you can lose it. So, I decided to try it out again, in my garage. So, I think I'm gonna, use that time to work on some skills. So here, basically, I use a kit that I already previously used. One of the problems with that kit is that it wasn't flat, so I tried to flatten it. It wasn't that great, so I put a shim under there to try to get it flatter. And initially, I tried to use the Egyptian wrap, but that didn't work out too well, so I just went back to the classic wrap for the spindle. So I had a bit of problems with the bearing block. So, I found out the bearing block is a pretty important piece in this puzzle. So you really have to change holes regularly, else you go too deep and get too much friction. So here we go. I was going pretty good. Got some pretty decent smoke, so I was happy there. I kept on going. So there's so many small little things you have to think about when you do the bow drill. It's not just going back and forth. Each of these pieces have to be made properly. And another piece that's pretty critical is the notch. So this time I think I got it pretty good. You can't make it too wide or too narrow, or else you don't get enough air. So I thought I had it, but well, the smoke disappeared, so that was a bit of a bummer. So I decided to, go back at it. One thing you really need to do is take all the the dust that you made. Just don't lose it because it takes a lot of effort. Another thing that's important is once you finish a round, you gotta remove all the black stuff from the spindle. So that's hardened wood, and really it doesn't cause enough friction, and it's counterproductive. So you gotta really remove all the black area. And actually, if you leave it a bit rough, I find it works a bit better. Maybe there's more friction to make more dust, and that works out. So that's for the bottom section. You really have to remove all the black stuff and make sure that you have a pretty obtuse angle so that it's pretty rounded, so you can maximize the friction and maximize the area to make the dust. And on the top, pretty much every time you got to resharpen it, because or else it becomes too dull and too much friction happens, and then you get some smoke up top. And again, it's counterproductive. So you gotta sharpen it as sharp as possible every single time you stop, so to have a good chance that it works. So that was okay. I thought it was a good spindle. So another thing is that once in a while, the cord will get a bit longer. Maybe it's the heat, or I don't know. So you gotta adjust your cord on the bow. So I did that. So I went back at it. Yeah, so one of the problems I had here is that since the bottom of my board wasn't flat, I put a shim and it moved a bit, so I had to reposition it. Sometimes you don't have a flat board, so I found that having a shim can help, or else sometimes the dust can go in the wrong direction. That's what happened before. I put the shim, so that really helped to get the dust collecting in the groove. So I got a pretty good rhythm going, and the notch was filling up with dust, so that was good. So I thought I was pretty close, and I think I stopped just too early, unfortunately. Sometimes you gotta keep going, even though you think you have it. Just continue. I saw some smoke. I said, okay, pretty good, but again, it sort of died out. So I went back at it again, So I said this time I'm just gonna continue until just I have no more energy. Just continue until there's tons of smoke. And this time I put way more pressure, downward pressure, so I think that helped a lot, maybe to generate more friction or more heat. But I got some pretty good smoke going. So I thought, yeah, so I was pretty happy there. Yeah, so now we can see that smoke going. So I put even more pressure as I saw the smoke. Try to get more heat in the notch there to get the dust to ignite. Yeah, so the spindle jumped, so that happens once in a while. I don't know exactly why it happened here, because the notch was still good. So it wasn't because it was too wide. I don't know. Maybe I didn't pay attention, but I guess it worked out because the ember caught. So you got to be very careful when you separate the board from the ember, not to break down the ember. So it was burning by itself, so that was nice. So I let it grow a bit because you don't want to jump on it too early. Sometimes it's just too small; it can die on you. So that was nice. It grew pretty good. So I try to look for some kind of bundle, but I didn't have anything except some birch bark. So I figured might as well try it just with birch bark, see if it works out. Because in the past I tried different things like grass and cedar bark, stuff like that, and that worked. But I was wondering, what about just birch bark? Because sometimes you just have what you have, you know. So I gave that a shot. So one thing I should have done maybe is to try to break down the birch bark into fine powder. Maybe that would have helped. But just continue, feeding some oxygen in there. So I had a pretty good feeling about this because the heat was really getting higher and higher. So I was pretty happy to get that ember this time because it's been a long time I didn't do any Bowdrill, so I was happy to see it worked. It's one of those things you just have to stick to it. It might take hours, but if you stick to it and you have some okay technique, I think it's going to work out. So maybe I should have put it higher, I don't know. But yeah, so it was getting hotter and hotter, so I knew I was in the right direction. And finally got some flame, so that was nice. So that was pretty exciting, pretty happy.